Find rest as you listen to Soultime's story for sleep, A Pilgrim's Progress. For more ad-free content like this, to help you get a restful night, download the Soultime Christian Meditation app from the App Store or Google Play Store. Buy from our website today to get a special discount offer for a Soultime subscription. Hi. This evening I'm bringing you the story of Pilgrim's Progress. Settle down into your bed, getting yourself cozy and peaceful. Take deep breaths in and out. Slowly close your eyes and listen. The man with the burden. I dreamed, and I thought I saw in my dream a man standing with his face turned away from his own house. He was clothed in rags, a book was in his hands, and a great burden was on his back. Then I saw him open the book, and as he read, he wept and cried out, "What shall I do?" By and by he turned and went into his house. His wife and children saw that he was in trouble, and they wondered, but he kept silent for a long time and said not a word. At last, when he could hold in no longer, he said, "Dear ones, do you see this great burden that is on my back? It is so heavy that I can hardly bear its weight." But they could not see the burden, and they wondered at his words. "Dear Father," they said, "you are very tired. When you have slept and have rested, you will feel much better." The man looked at them sadly and then went out into the fields. There he walked back and forth all day, sometimes reading from his book and sometimes weeping most bitterly. "What shall I do to be saved?" he cried. He looked this way and that as if he would run, but he did not know which way to go. At length an old man with a long white beard and a gentle face came that way and saw him weeping. "What is the matter?" asked the stranger, whose name was Messenger. "Why are you crying?" "Oh, sir," answered the man, "this book which I have in my hand tells me that unless I get rid of this heavy burden, I shall surely die." "Then why do you stand here?" asked Messenger. "Why don't you go and get rid of it?" "Because I don't know which way to go," said the man, still weeping. Then Messenger pointed with his finger towards the blue hills far, far away. "Look, do you see the wicket gate?" "No." "Then do you see the shining light yonder in the distance?" "Yes, I think I do." "Well then, keep that light always in view. Go straight towards it, and by you can see the wicket gate. When you have come to the gate, knock, and the one who keeps it will tell you what to do." The man, whose name was Graceless, thanked Messenger and began to run. His wife and children, who were watching him, cried out to him to stop. "Come back, Father," they called, "come back and stay with us." But he would not listen. He ran on, keeping his face towards the faraway hills and never losing sight of the shining light. The wicket gate. Then I saw in my dream that the man Graceless came by and by to the wicket gate. Now over the gate there was written, "Knock, and it shall be opened unto you." So he knocked more than once or twice, and as he knocked he kept saying to himself, "May I now enter? Will he that is within open to sorry me?" By and by there came to a gate a man with a grave but kindly face, whose name was Good Will. He looked out, and when he saw a stranger standing there, he asked, "Who are you, and what do you wish?" "I am a man with a burden," answered Graceless. "I have come from the city of destruction, and am going towards the mountains and the shining light, where I hope to be delivered." I have been told that the way lies through this gate. Therefore I ask if you are willing to let me in." "I am willing with all my heart," said Goodwill, and with that he opened the gate. Graceless stepped in, but not fast enough for Goodwill, who took him by the arm and pulled him quickly. "Why did you do that?" asked the man. Then Goodwill told him that there was a castle full of wicked giants on the hillside nearby, and that often when these giants saw a man about to enter the wicket gate, they would shoot at him with their arrows. In this way many persons had been killed before they entered in. "How glad I am that I am here," said Graceless. "Who sent you here?" asked Goodwill. "A good man called Messenger," was the answer. "He told me to knock, and he said that you would show me what to do to be delivered from this heavy burden." "Did anyone know of your coming?" "Oh yes, my wife and children saw me start, and they called after me to come back. Now I am come, unworthy as I am, into this place." "How kind you are to open the gate for me." "We refuse none who come and knock. Therefore come with me, and I will teach you that which you need most to know. But first I will give you a new name. You shall no longer be called Graceless, but Christian, for you are now a pilgrim on the road to the celestial land." "Oh, tell me about that road," said Christian. "Look before you," answered Goodwill. "See that narrow highway? It was cast up and built by the great and good men of old. It is the way by which you must go." "I see it," answered Christian, "but there are no windings in it by which one might lose his way." "Not in the way itself," answered Goodwill, "but there are many crooks and turnings which join onto it at different places. You may always know the right way, for it is never any other than straight and narrow." "This burden on my back is very grievous," said Christian. "Can you not in some way help me to get rid of it?" "Be content to bear your burden yet a little while," answered Goodwill. "You will come by and by to the place of deliverance, and there it will fall from your back of itself." "Very well then," said Christian. "I will go forward on my journey." "Go," said Goodwill, "and you will soon see a beautiful house by the roadside. It is the house of the interpreter. Knock at the door, and he will open and bid you enter. Tell him your name and whither you are going, and he will show you many excellent things." So Christian bade his friend goodbye and joyfully renewed his journey. The House of the Interpreter. Then I saw in my dream that Christian went on until he came to the house of the interpreter. There he knocked again, and at last one came to the door and asked who was there. Christian answered that he was a traveller who was on his way to the celestial city, and that he wished to see the master of the house. Then the interpreter himself came to the door and said, "Come in, I will show you some things that will be helpful to you on your journey." So Christian went in and stood waiting. Then the interpreter took a lighted candle and bade him follow into the next room, and there the good man showed the pilgrim wonderful portraits and moving pictures, each one of which taught its lesson of truth. In one of these pictures, two children were shown whose names were Passion and Patience. Passion was always restless and dissatisfied, but Patience was very quiet and contented. As Christian looked at the picture, he saw a man bring a bag of gold and pour out treasure at Passion's feet. The child was very glad and seized the gold at his hands. He laughed at Patience and rejoiced in his treasure. But soon it melted away and he had nothing left but rags. Christian asked the interpreter the meaning of this picture. "I will tell you," he answered. "As the treasure of the child Passion vanished and left him nothing but rags, so shall it be with the people of this world who desire to have all their good things now." "Yes," said Christian, "I see that Patience was wiser than Passion, for he was contented to wait." "You are right," answered the interpreter, for he waits for the best things, and in due time will be rewarded." Thus Christian was led from room to room, and in each he was shown some picture or other wonderful object, and the interpreter explained the meaning of everything that he saw. "Have you considered all these things?" the interpreter asked. "Yes, and they have put me in fear and hope," answered Christian. So he rested for a short while in this wonderful house of the interpreter, but he would not tarry long, for he was impatient to go on his way. "I am thankful to you, O good interpreter," he said, "for you have shown me many things that are both rare and profitable. May the Comforter be always with thee, to guide thee in the way that leads to the city," said the interpreter. So Christian, with a lighter heart, renewed his journey. You are listening to Soultime's Story for Sleep, A Pilgrim's Progress. For more ad-free content like this, to help you get a restful night, download the Soultime Christian Meditation app from the App Store or Google Play Store. Buy from our website today to get a special discount offer for a Soultime subscription. The lifting of the burden. Now I saw in my dream that Christian went on slowly and with great difficulty, for the road was steep and the burden on his back was very heavy. But he toiled on until he came to a hill on which there was a cross. And at the foot of the hill there was a sepulchre. So he climbed the hill and came up to the cross. Behold, his burden fell from his shoulders and began to tumble, and it rolled downward till it came to the mouth of the sepulchre, where it fell in, and I saw it no more. Oh, how merry of heart was Christian then! He stood for a while to look and wonder, for it seemed very strange that the sight of the cross should thus ease him from his burden. And as he wondered and wept, he saw 3 shining ones who saluted him and said, "Peace be with thee." The first said to him, "I give thee a pure heart." The second stripped him of his rags and clothed him in beautiful garments. The third set a mark on his forehead and gave him a little book with a seal upon it. "Keep this book with care," he said, "and read it often as you journey onward. When you come to the celestial city, show it to the keeper of the gate, and it shall be your passport." So the shining ones vanished from sight, and Christian was so filled with joy that he leapt 3 times into the air and went away singing, "Thus far did I come with my burden of sin, and nothing could ease the grief I was in. But when I came hither, the burden I lost, and I found peace and joy at the foot of the cross." Adventures on the road. Then I saw in my dream that as Christian was going joyfully on his way, he came to a pleasant valley. He had not gone far when he saw 2 climbing over a wall from the field on the left-hand side of the road. As he came up, they joined him, and the 3 walked on together. "Gentlemen," said Christian, "who are you and whither are you going?" One of them, who had a very soft voice and a goodly countenance, answered, "My name is Hypocrisy, and I am from the land of Vainglory." "And my name," said the other, "is Formalist. We 2 are close friends and companions, and we are on our way to the celestial city." "Why didn't you come by the gate?" asked Christian. "The gate," answered Hypocrisy. "What is the use of going round by the gate, when one can make a shortcut across the fields and jump over the wall?" "But it is in this book," said Christian, "that he that climbeth up some other way, the same is a thief and a robber." "Oh, you needn't call us names," answered Formalist. "It has been the practice 1,000 years for people to climb over the wall just as we have done." "Well," said Christian, "I doubt if your practice will stand the test of trial." "What of that?" said Hypocrisy. "You are on the way to the celestial city. We are on the same road. Are we not as far along the way as you?" "We shall see whether you are found true men at the end of the way," answered Christian. "Well," said Formalist, "you are no better than we, even if you do wear finer garments." "These garments," said Christian, "were given to me by the Lord of the place to which I am going. Surely they are a token of his kindness, for I had only rags before. When I get to the city he will know me, for I shall be clothed in his garments." To this the men made no answer. They only looked at each other and laughed. Then Christian walked on ahead of them. So they all went on until they came to a very high and rugged hill, which is called the Hill of Difficulty. At the foot of that hill there was a spring of clear water, and here there were 2 other roads besides the straight and narrow one. One of these wound around the hill to the right-hand side, the other branched off on the left-hand side, but the narrow road went straight forward over the steepest part of the hill. Christian went to the spring and drank from it, and feeling much refreshed he went forward right up the difficult way, and as he went he began to sing, "I will ascend, for me the toil will not offend. Be brave, my heart, and do not fear, for the way to life leads over here." The other 2 men came also to the foot of the hill, but when they saw how high and steep it was, they dreaded to climb it. Then they saw the other 2 roads, how much easier they seemed. They decided to follow them. "All the ways will probably meet on the other side of the hill," they said. Now the name of one of these roads was Danger, and the name of the other was Destruction, but the 2 men did not know that. So one of them walked briskly onwards along the way of Danger, and the other went as fearlessly down the road to Destruction. Soon both were lost in dark forests, where there was no path to guide them, and they were seen no more. But Christian toiled onward and upward, until at length he reached the top of the hill. The House Beautiful. Now I saw in my dream that as Christian hastened on his way, the sun went down and the shades of evening began to fall. Christian began to feel alarmed, for the forest by the roadside was the home of wild beasts, and he knew nowhere to find lodging for the night. As he was grieving and wondering, he lifted up his eyes, and behold, on the roadside before him, he saw a very stately building. It stood right by the roadside, and its name was the House Beautiful. Christian quickened his steps and hurried forward, where he hoped to find lodging. But while he was yet some distance from the gate, he saw 2 lions crouching by the roadside. He was greatly frightened and thought that death was before him. He turned and was about to run back when he heard a voice calling him. It was the voice of the porter, whose name was Watchful. Christian paused and listened. "Have courage, sir," cried the porter. "The lions are chained, and if you will keep in the middle of the path, they cannot touch you." Then Christian, trembling with fear, went on as the porter directed him. The lions roared dreadfully, but they did no harm. Soon he was safe at the gateway, and the porter took him by the hand and spoke words of welcome to him. "What house is this?" asked Christian, "and may I lodge here tonight?" "It is the House Beautiful," answered the porter. "It was built by the Lord of the Hill to serve as a resting place for weary pilgrims. Come inside of the gate." Christian went through the gateway, and the porter asked him many questions. "What is your name?" "My name is now Christian, but at first it was Graceless." "Whence have you come?" "I have come from the city of destruction, and I am on my way to the celestial land." Then Watchful, the porter, rang a little bell, and a maid whose name was Discretion came out of the house to answer to the call. "Here is a weary pilgrim who would fain lodge here tonight," said Watchful. "Will you not learn from him whether he is in truth worthy?" And the maiden asked him whence he was and whither he was going, and he told her. She asked him how he had got into the right way, and he told her. She asked him what he had seen and met on the road, and he told her. "What is thy name?" "Once it was Graceless, but now it is Christian, and I am all the more desirous to lodge here tonight, because I am told that the house was built by the Lord of the Hill as a resting place for pilgrims." Then the maiden smiled, and as she smiled the tears stood in her eyes. "I will call some of the others of our household," she said. She ran into the house and soon returned with 3 other fair women. The names of these sisters were Prudence, Piety, and Charity. "Come in, thou blessed of the Lord," they said. So Christian bowed his head and followed them into the beautiful house. They brought him water with which to refresh himself, and when he had washed himself and brushed the dust from his clothing, they gave him a pleasant seat by the window, and all sat down to talk until supper was ready. "How did it happen that you started on this journey?" asked Piety. "Oh, I had a grievous burden on my back," answered Christian, "and I did not know whether to go. But who told you to come this way?" "As I was trembling and weeping, a man whose name is Messenger showed me the way to the wicket gate, and there my feet were set on the straight road." "Did you see the house of the interpreter by the roadside?" "Oh yes, and there I was shown many things that I will remember as long as I live. I could have stayed in that good man's house a whole year, but I knew that I had farther to go." "And what else did you see on the way?" "See? Why, as I came to the top of the weary hill, I saw a cross, and as I went near it and fell on my knees, the heavy burden, which I had borne so long, tumbled from my back and rolled far away out of sight. And as I was rejoicing, behold, 3 shining ones came to me with gifts. One of them gave me this beautiful garment which you see, for I had nothing but rags before. Another gave me this sealed roll, which is my passport to the celestial city." Then Prudence asked him, "What is it that makes you so desirous to reach the celestial city?" "Oh, there are many things," answered Christian. "I hope that when I am there, I shall be free from the troubles which affects me here. They say there is no death there, that we may live with those who we love best and fear no evil. So I fain would be there and sing with those blessed ones who stand around the throne of the King." Then Charity asked him, "Have you a family?" And Christian answered, "Yes, I have a wife and 4 small children." "And why did you not bring them with you?" asked Charity. Then Christian wept bitterly and said, "How gladly I would have done so, but they would not listen to me. They wished even to hold me back and prevent me from coming." While they were yet talking, the supper was made ready, and they sat down at the table. And on the table were all sorts of healthful and nourishing food, red-cheeked apples, purple grapes, and delicious fruits from the garden of the sun, and whatsoever would make the body strong. The company sat at the table, and all their talk was about the Lord of the Hill, of his goodness at building the house and in furnishing it with all things necessary to the happiness of those who visited it. "He is a great warrior," said Piety, "for he fought with the greatest enemy of our country and slew him." "He is a lover of the poor," said Charity, "for he stripped himself of his own glory, that he might relieve them of their sorrows." Thus they sat and talked late into the night. Then they betook themselves to rest, committing themselves to the care of their Lord. As for Christian, he was given a bed in a large upper chamber, where there was a window that opened towards the sun rising. The name of the chamber was Peace, and there he slept till the break of the day. In the morning he arose early, and as he dressed he sang for joy. After he had breakfasted with the household, he began to talk of renewing his journey. But Prudence said, "Nay, you must tarry a day with us, for we would show you some of the rarities of this place." So they first led him into the library and showed him the records of all that had been done in olden times. There too they showed him the history of the Lord of the Hill and the names of many good women and men who had served him, and pictures of the mansions which he had given them to live in. And in many books they read of the worthy deeds of those who served the Lord, how they had subdued kingdoms, wrought righteousness, obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions, quenched the violence of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, out of weakness were made strong, waxed violence in fight, and turned to flight the enemies of the aliens. Here also were the histories of other famous things, both ancient and modern, and Christian was so pleased with the reading of them that the day was spent ere he was aware. The next day, Watchful and the 4 maidens led him into the armoury of the house, showing him the arms and curious relics that were there. They showed him the sword and the shield, the helmet and the breastplate, and the shoes which the Lord of the Hill had provided for the pilgrims who would enlist under his banner. None of these would wear out, and there were so many that all who lived in the world might be clothed in armour. They showed him some strange weapons that had been used in former times, such as the sling with which David had slain Goliath, the jawbone with which Samson had done such mighty deeds. They showed him also many other excellent things, and thus the second day was passed. Early the next morning, Christian made ready to go forward. The good people of the house persuaded him to tarry until the sun was higher. "Stay," said Piety, "and if the air is clear we will show you the Delectable Mountains." "And where are they?" asked Christian. "Oh, they are far, far away," answered Piety, "but they are much nearer to the celestial city than this place is, and sometimes we have most delightful views of them." So Christian consented and stayed. Towards noon they led him up to the top of the house and bade him to look southward. He did so, and lo, at a great distance he saw a most beautiful land. It was a mountainous country with delightful valleys and fields. There were green woods and pleasant vineyards. There were fruits of all sorts and flowers of every hue. There were springs, fountains, bright waterfalls, and quiet brooks. "What is the name of that beautiful country?" asked Christian. "It is called Emmanuel's Land," they answered, "and all pilgrims are as welcome there as they are at this our house. Beautiful." Then they led him down again into the armoury, and they clothed him from head to foot in stout armour. They put a shield in his hand, and a sharp sword in his belt, and on his head they fitted a helmet of rarest workmanship. He was now ready to go forward on his journey, and the maidens went with him to the gate. "I saw another pilgrim passing a little while ago," said Watchful. "Do you know him?" asked Christian. "He told me his name is Faithful," answered the porter. "Oh, I know him," gladly answered Christian. "He is one of my old neighbours. How far do you think he has gone?" "He is at the foot of the hill by this time." "Well, I will hasten and try and overtake him." Then Christian bade the porter goodbye and began to go forward. But the maidens, Discretion, Piety, Charity, and Prudence, said, "We will go with you to the foot of the hill." So they went together, talking as they walked. The hill was very steep and slippery. So dangerous was the going down that Christian would have fallen many times, had not Discretion and Prudence been with him to direct his steps. Even as it was, he slipped 2 or 3 times. At length they were at the bottom of the hill. The maidens gave Christian a loaf of bread, a bottle of wine, and a cluster of raisins. Then they bade him goodbye, and he went on his way. You are listening to Soultime's Story for Sleep, A Pilgrim's Progress. For more ad-free content like this, to help you get a restful night, download the Soultime Christian Meditation app from the App Store or Google Play Store. Buy from our website today to get a special discount offer for a Soultime subscription. The Valley of the Shadow of Death. Now I saw in my dream that Christian renewed his journey, and he carried his sword drawn in his hand, for he said, "I know not what enemy I may meet." The way was rougher and narrower than before, and it led downward into a wild land of bogs and pits which was called the Valley of the Shadow of Death. Christian went down into the valley carrying the sword in his hand. The way was very narrow. On one side of it was a very deep ditch, on the other there was a dangerous bog that was without bottom. As Christian went forward, he groped in the darkness. He was in much distress, for when he would shun the ditch on one side, he felt himself slipping into the bog on the other. And when he drew away from the mire of the bog, he was in danger of stumbling into the ditch. Christian put up his sword and began to pray to the Lord of the Hill, "O Lord, I beseech thee, deliver my soul." Thus for a long time he went forward. At times he was minded to go back, but then he remembered the scenes he had passed through and felt that the dangers in front of him could be no greater than that which was behind. At length, while he was still in the midst of alarms, he thought he heard a voice in the darkness ahead of him. He listened. It was the voice of a man speaking up clearly in the midst of the great uproar. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me." And Christian was glad, and he went on with a surer step than before. He called to him that was before, "O my friend, faithful, is that your voice I hear?" But no answer came out of the gloom. Soon, however, the day broke, and the light of the sun began to dispel the darkness. Christian paused and looked back over the road he had travelled. He could see plainly the ditch and the bog with the narrow path between them, but they were far off, hiding in the shadows of the valley. He gave thanks that he had escaped all these, and then resumed his journey. The way, however, was still beset with dangers, for he was not yet out of the valley. There were so many snares, traps, pits and pitfalls all along the way, that had it now been dark, he would surely have fallen into them. But as I have said, the sun was rising. Now I saw in my dream that Christian had come safely out of the dark valley, and was singing on his way. And as he came to the Brava hill, who should he see before him but his old friend Faithful? "Ho, ho, Sir, ho," he cried, "wait, and I will be your companion." Faithful looked behind him but walked on. "Wait, wait till I have come up with you," again cried Christian. But Faithful answered, "I must not tarry, for my errand is pressing." Then Christian ran with what speed he could, and not only overtook Faithful but passed by him. Then he looked back and laughed. "You wouldn't wait, so I am ahead of you." But as he was speaking, he stumbled and fell, and being warned from his journey, he could not rise again until Faithful came to help him. Then the two went on together, talking of things that had happened to them on their pilgrimage. Each told the other of all they had seen and of the dangers they had escaped, and both were much comforted and strengthened. The Land of Bula. Now I saw in my dream that the pilgrims went on, and by entered into the country of Bula. This was indeed a pleasant land and a healthful one. The air was very sweet, and the sun shone night and day. There they heard always the singing of the birds. They saw every day the flowers blooming in the woods and fields. They heard the cooing of turtle doves and the songs of running brooks. So in this land the pilgrims tarried a while, and solaced themselves, for the land of Bula is beyond the valley of the shadow of death. But the pilgrims were here in sight of the city they were going to, and as they rested themselves, some people of that city came out to see them. For in this land the Shining Ones came often to walk, because it is on the borders of the celestial country. Here the pilgrims had no want of corn and wine, for in this place there is an abundance of all the things that they had sought in their pilgrimage. And as they walked onward, their joy became greater day by day. Then as they drew nearer the city, they began to have a more perfect view of it. They saw that it was gilded with pearls and precious stones, and that the streets were paved with gold. Then as they beheld somewhat of its natural glory, the sunbeams that enlightened it, Christian could scarcely wait to enter it. His desire was so great that he felt sick, and Hopeful also had a fit of the same disease. Therefore they lay for a while in the land of Bula, looking wistfully over towards the celestial gate, and crying out because of their great desire. But after a time, being better able to hold themselves, they rose and went on. They went on, and came yet nearer and nearer, where were orchards and vineyards and beautiful gardens. But as they passed these places, they saw the gardener standing in the way. They asked him, "Whose goodly vineyards and gardens are these?" "They are the king's," he answered. "They are planted here for his own delight and for the solace of pilgrims." Then he led them into the vineyards and bade them refresh themselves with the dainty fruit that hung clustering in the vines. He showed them also the king's walks and the pleasant arbours where he delighted to be. And here they tarried a while and slept, and sweet dreams came to them in their sleep, and they talked aloud of the joys that were in store for them. In the morning when they awoke, they turned their steps once more towards the city. Then I saw as they went on that two men in shining raiment came forth to meet them, and the faces of these men shone as the light. They asked them where they had lodged, and they told them. They asked them what dangers they had met, and what difficulties they had overcome, and they told them. There was one difficulty left, which you must surmount, and then you will be in the city," said the men. "Will you not walk with us until we come to our journey's end?" asked Christian and Hopeful. "That we will do," answered the men, "but it is by your own faith that you must go in safety to the celestial gate." The River of Dread. Now I saw in the dream that they went on together until they came in sight of the gate. I further saw that between them and the gate there was a river, and there was no bridge to go over, and the river was very deep. They were much disheartened, but the men who went with them said, "You must go through or you cannot get to the gate." Christian was greatly cast down by this answer, and began to wish that he might draw back and escape. But Hopeful took him by the hand and cheered him with comforting words, when as they came to the water's edge, they asked the men how deep the river was. "You will find it deeper or shallower as you put your trust in the king," they answered. So they stepped in, and Christian felt himself beginning to sink, and he cried out, "O Hopeful, my friend, I sink in deep waters." But Hopeful answered, "Be of good cheer, my brother. My feet are on the bottom, and it is good." Still Christian cried out in his despair, "I shall never see the celestial land, the land of milk and honey." But all the time Hopeful tried to cheer him. "Brother, I see the gate. I see the men standing by to welcome us." "It is you for whom they wait," answered Christian. "They wait for you, not me. You have been hopeful ever since I knew you." "And so have you," answered Hopeful. "Remember how you kept your face always turned towards the celestial land." Then I saw in my dream that Christian was silent for a time as though in deep thought. Then Hopeful said, "Be of good cheer. We shall soon be on the other side. I see the Prince of the celestial land." "I see him too," cried Christian. "And he tells me, 'When thou passest through the water, I will be with thee, and through the rivers, they shall not overflow thee.'" Soon the water became shallower, and Christian found the bottom good ground to walk upon. So they went on cheerfully, and with hopeful hearts, and thus they got over. You are listening to Soultime's Story for Sleep, A Pilgrim's Progress. For more ad-free content like this, to help you get a restful night, download the Soultime Christian Meditation app from the App Store or Google Play Store. Buy from our website today to get a special discount offer for a Soultime subscription. The end of the journey. Then I saw in my dream that the pilgrims being come out of the water, two shining ones met them and saluted them, and all went walking along together towards the gate. Now the city stood upon a mighty hill, but the pilgrims went up with ease, for the shining ones led them and helped them. And they had also left their heavy garments behind in river, for though they went in with them, they came out without them. So they went up lightly and with speed, though the city was higher than the clouds. They went up through the clear air, talking sweetly as they went, for they were comforted, for they had safely crossed the river, and were being led by such glorious companions. The shining ones talked to them on the way, and told them about the beauty and the grandeur of the place. "You are now going," they said, "to the paradise of our Lord. There you shall see the tree of life and eat of its never-fading fruits. There you shall be clothed with glory and with majesty, and there you shall see the King as he is. There your friends will meet you, even those who have come before, and you shall with joy receive ones that follow into this holy place after you." Now as they were drawing near the gate, a great company came out to meet them, and the two shining ones said, "These are the men that have loved our Lord and have left all for his sake. He has sent us to fetch them, and we have brought them thus far on their journey." Then there was a great shout of welcome, and the king's trumpeters saluted them with music loud and sweet, and the great company surrounded them on every side. Some went before, some behind, and all walked on together towards the gate. But before they came to it, they had another view of the city itself, and the pilgrims thought that they heard the bells therein ringing sweetly to welcome them. And so they went on, and the watchman of the gate looked over and saw them and asked who they were. "These pilgrims," answered the shining ones, "are come from the city of destruction, for the love that they bear to the king of this place." Then Christian and Hopeful gave their passports to the keeper of the gate, and lo, they were transfigured, and they had a raiment put on that shone like gold. Then I heard all the bells in the city ring out for joy, and a voice sweeter than any earthly music said unto them, Enter ye into the joy of the Lord. So I awoke, and behold, it was a dream. Now may this little book a blessing be to those who love this little book and me, and may its buyer no more cause to say, his money is but lost or thrown away. Yea, may this second pilgrim yield that fruit as may with each good pilgrim's fancy suit, and may it persuade some that go astray to turn their feet and heart to the right way, is the hearty prayer of the author, John Bunyan. As you drift off to sleep, I would love to pray for you. God, help us to sleep in peace tonight. Like the room in the house beautiful, may we feel warm and comfortable and surrounded on all sides by those who walk with us. God, be with us as we sleep. Watch over us. Help us to sleep deeply and peacefully. Amen. You have been listening to Soultime's Story for Sleep, A Pilgrim's Progress. For more ad-free content like this, to help you get a restful night, download the Soultime Christian Meditation app from the App Store or Google Play Store. Buy from our website today to get a special discount offer for a Soultime subscription.